What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG Structures chapter review. Today, guys, we are going to be doing chapter 5 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG Structures manga. I've been doing these a lot this week. I had to make up for what happened last week. In fact, this is actually the third one that I'm doing in a week. I did chapter 4 and I did chapter 3.5, which I accidentally did skip. So make sure you go to the playlist if you have missed them already. I've been doing a lot of videos recently because I've been just trying to catch back up. I had a busy week last week, so I wasn't able to get these up as on the normal schedule like I would normally do, but that stuff ends up happening anyways. So, yeah, without further ado, let's not waste any time and let's get right into it. So, what did I think of this chapter? I actually really did enjoy this chapter. I've been really excited, guys, to actually get into this chapter because I feel like a lot of stuff ended up happening in this that I was not expecting to actually happen, and honestly, I cannot wait to actually talk about it, so let's not waste any time. So, the chapter begins with we seeing this new character actually right at the start, which, let me just say this. First glance at this new character, especially when we actually see his face for the first time, and maybe this is just me at first glance, and this is just judging off a character design. Doesn't this character look like a mixture of Weevil, Underwood, and Flip Turner? I don't know what it is with this character, but I feel like you just slap the polymerization on the field, you fuse Weevil and Flip Turner together, and you create this character, which is very interesting. Hopefully he's not as annoying as those characters, but we'll just have to wait and see. But we get into the chapter, they're actually looking through the new structure decks, or not structure decks, I think it was packs that were actually had ended up coming out. And Shoma was looking at the cards. He actually goes into the structure world and he meets Subtle Knight Expaladin, I believe that's how you say it, Invocator Evaqua, Flame Noble Knights Ronald, or if you play the TCG, it's Infernal Noble Knights Ronald, excuse me. And then we meet God Phoenix Gearfried, which is a level 9 warrior monster. I think this was a card that was actually used by Soulburner in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Frames anime, if I remember correctly, because I believe that was in a duel. This was before he became Soulburner. He dueled this nobody character that used zombie monsters. I remember like zombie wolves is what he was using, and then he had Despair from the Dark, and that basically terrified Soulburner. And I think this was one of the cards that he ended up using. And I looked it up actually, and I think I have an idea where these cards are coming from. Let me know if there was maybe there was actually a booster set that ended up coming out, but these cards come from the structure deck are Warrior Strike, which was a structure deck that came out in the OCG a little while back. I don't remember when it actually came out. I'm looking at it right now, but it doesn't actually have a date on it. Maybe if I scroll down a little bit, but those cards are in there. I don't know if it's exactly the set because a little later on, when Shoma was actually talking to these monsters, he mentions Isodal. I think it's like Isodal, twin of the Noble Arms. I know it's a Noble Arms monster. I have this Link monster in the real life card game, and it doesn't come from that structure deck. Also, he talks about adding Instant Fusion, which I also actually have that card. I believe is if you pay 1,000 life points, you can summon a level, I think it was either a level 6 or lower monster. No, it was I think it was the level 6 or below fusion monster from your extra deck. But during the end phase, I believe you were supposed to destroy that monster. And also, I don't think it was able to attack. So, yeah, and then it talks about relinquish Amina and the restrict monsters, or relinquish Aman and the restrict cards to add into the deck as well. And he was talking about how these would be good with Gearfried's first and third effects. And this is where it gets kind of interesting. We get a line from Gearfried that says, each deck is built with the sensible of their duelists. That is an optimal solution, in which Yuga then has a response is like, there is no right answer to deck construction. I see, you're right. Which I really do like this because I feel like I've seen this before when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh players. I feel like they get a lot of their inspiration from just watching videos, making these deck profiles and stuff like that. Now, I can't really say anything because I don't personally do them, but I watched different deck profiles before because I like to see how people build decks. And I think what this kind of explains is that there is no right way to make a deck. It's more based off of how comfortable and how easy is it for you to use this deck, how viable it is for you to use this deck. Because someone makes a deck profile and it's basically the way that they know how to do it. That's the best way that they're able to do it. But maybe you see something that you can do that it might be a little bit better or a little bit easier for you to use, and that's how you build it. So you get some inspiration from that, and then you just either fix it to make it better for you, or whatever the case might be. And I really like that. Maybe that's just the way I was interpreting it. Let me know what you guys interpret of that. But that's what I kind of feel like is like when you're building your own deck, there's not a right way of how you build a deck. That's not a certain way you have to build a deck. You build a deck based off of your knowledge and what you think is the best for your deck, not what someone else thinks. But that's how I interpreted this, and I really do like that little quote from Shoma and Gearfried. But they then kind of talk about some more cards that they can actually add to the deck. Well, no, no, my bad. He wants to consult with his friends to kind of think some ideas, which is another thing, is that that's why I did the video ideas, because if you watch a deck profile, you get inspiration from that, and then you build it, or you talk with your friends in the real life game. Obviously, that's a little bit harder with the pandemic, but if you talk to your friends, maybe you can help each other build decks together, which I think is really one of the fun things about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just talking with your friends and just building decks together. I think it's just so great. And then jeez, I'm always gonna do this. Watching Vrain's dub the Sevens anime and reading the OCG Structures manga following 3 different protagonists, I'm gonna end up stumbling a lot, I feel like. But Shoma is able to build his new structure deck, and he actually tells the reason of why he built a new deck, because that was a little bit weird, I thought, at first, of why he wanted to build a deck. I didn't really know why he wanted to. I thought he was doing great with tennies, but he does explain that after Strong and Dark got in a little bit of a bicker, calling each other names, after he said, like, that's why you're the weakest one, you lout, which was something that Dark said, and then Strong said his own, like, trash talk back right at him. I don't know what I just said right there. He was basically talking smack talk about him right back at him. I know that sounded weird, but getting back on topic, they're bickering at each other. Light challenges Shoma to a duel, which she did this in the last chapter, so I'm not surprised about that. But then this kid before that, she asks what inspired him to build a new deck. And that was something I was actually wondering too, is like, why did he need to build a new deck? Because, I thought he was doing very well with tennies. Now, obviously, it's because they want to show more of the cards off, but in Shoma's case, the reason why he wanted to do it, because he thought it was really cool of what Dark's, when he summoned Final Sigma, he wanted to have a deck with fire monsters as his ace. But that wasn't just the reason why. It was because he wanted to have a summoning chant. He was hoping that Dark would kind of teach him a summoning chant, because of him having a fire-type monster. He thought maybe it would be the best way for him to learn his summoning chant for his fire ace monster. I mean, I guess that's a fair thing, but I gotta remember, this kid is like 13 or 14 years old, so I can't really be mad about that. But then she asks about the duel that he promised her to do it, but then this kid comes out of nowhere and tells him that he wants to duel him, which we do end up learning his name, Psychic Tendo. I'm gonna assume his name is just Tendo. I don't think his name is actually Psychic, but still, he comes in, he challenges him to a duel, and then the next thing we see Oh my gosh! Like I'm re-looking back at it, and this terrifies me. This gives me like shit up my spine. As she says, he promised to play with me first, Tendo, you little pest. And you just see like her eyes are like soulless. Like you see like the dark shade around her eyes. Like it is terrifying. You do not want to get into this girl's way when she wants to duel someone, which I really respect, actually. I'm actually really liking Light as a character, but I don't know, that was just really unexpected, to be completely honest. And then we got an interesting scene where everyone is so surprised that all of these four kids are together. Even though they go to the same, technically they go to the same school, they're actually in different grades. We do learn that the four kings, the four elementary school dual kings all had to disband because Dark and Strong had to move up to middle school while Light and Tendo were still sixth graders at the time, so they didn't end up going to middle school with them. They're a grade behind them. So, and then you get a funny scene where Shoma is kind of weirded out by this, and he says like, "I'm older. I'm in the eighth grade." So Shoma's a grade above these kids apparently. But then we get something very interesting. We get a little bit of dialogue with this Tendo character. Excuse me, I pronounced his name wrong. Where he tells them that if I win tomorrow's final national qualifiers, I can go into the world championship. So he's already trying to go for a championship league. He wants to become a champion. He basically, and this is like one of the greatest things that I feel like I've seen from this manga so far, or at least that I think. He says, I want to see just what the world championship is like him. And the whole tone just changed right there. I mean, we see Shoma just say him, and I feel bad for Shoma because he doesn't even know what in the world is going on before this duel. I mean, when um Light ends up saying, you know what, that's fine. Since you really want to do this so bad, you can duel Shoma first. I can go second. But before that, these kids just went into despair mode very quickly. And that was just so weird. But then you actually look at the image at the top, and that's protagonist. Now, if you don't know what I mean by protagonist, this is technically the character that you play as in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Sakyo card battle video game for the Nintendo 3DS. That was only exclusive in Japan. I've mentioned this game numerous times about this. I mean, that's where the inspiration of this manga is from that video game. And they're actually talking about him. I kind of had a feeling they might have mentioned, we're going to mention him because of him being the original protagonist. This is kind of like in the situation with Judai and Yuki, where this was kind of a shift to the next protagonist, where Judai Yuki learns. Well, the difference between Judai and Shoma is that Shoma doesn't even know protagonist at all. These sideline characters, like the side characters, Light, Dark, Strong, and Tendo, are the ones that know him. Judai knows Yami Yugi. He knows or not Yami Yugi. He knows Yugi Moto. Shoma does not know protagonist, and the reason I'm calling him protagonist is because he doesn't have a canon name, or at least that I've never learned of. But I will say the fact that they just like were almost like depressed kind of was weird. Now, I don't know anything about Psycho Card Battle, and if there was something in the game that ended up happening to protagonists, please let me know, because obviously they're just sad. They have to have a reason for being sad, but they obviously don't explain this unless they explain this in an earlier chapter. If they explain this in the chapter before, please just don't say anything. Just tell me that it's going to be in a future chapter, so that will get me prepared to kind of learn about that. That way, that's an expectation that I need to go in. Don't tell me what they say, but I just want to know if it's going to be in the manga or not. They kind of explain this, or does Psycho Card Battle explain it? If both explain it, then you can tell me. I think that would be perfectly fine. It's not spoiling because you're already supposed to know. But then we get that whole exchange. Shoma doesn't care really. He doesn't care who his opponent is. He just wants to duel. Then they end up getting to the duel. We start off the duel with Tendo going first, and we finally learn his deck. He runs a Thunder Dragon deck. I feel like Thunder Dragons are actually pretty well known in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. I think it's pretty decently used in the OCG, and the TCG is not really used at all. I think a couple of the Thunder Dragons were actually banned, so Thunder Dragons are not really played anymore, so it's kind of interesting to see Thunder Dragons from the TCG's perspective, but again, this is OCG Structures, so they're more focused on the OCG, which Thunder Dragons are pretty well used. He's able to get 2 monsters out on the field. He gets a Some Summoner, and Thunder Dragon Colossus is all the cards that he summoned on his turn. He ends his turn. Shoma goes into his turn. He's able to use the first effect of Red Layer to special summon itself. Then he normal summons Evaqua, which is the monster I was talking about earlier. And then this kid, out of nowhere, plays Max C. For anyone that has played the OCG and TCG should know Max C very, very well. Basically, what it does is if your opponent special summons a monster, they get to draw 1 card. I do not like that card for this reason, because there's 2 results that end up happening with this. You either A, get multiple draws, because in the format that we're in which this is Master Rule 4, and even Master Rule 5 is the same way no matter which way you look at it, it's all reliant on special summoning, because normally a lot of people these days play with their fusions, synchro exceeds, pendulums, and the links. Link's the major one, because you need to special summon a lot of monsters if you want to get into your higher link summon monsters. And a special summon counts as the extra deck summon. So if you link summon a link 1 monster, that's counted as a special summon. So due to Max C's effect, you draw a card. So either you get a bunch of cards for that to help with your combos, or this basically forces your opponent out of special summoning, because of the fact that if they do special summon, that makes their opponent draw cards, which you never want your opponent to do at all. So now Shoma has a decision. He can go into his link summon play, isn't able to special summon another monster to get his gear free back onto the field, and he really wants to do that. But in doing so, there is a good chance, I believe he can draw a good amount of cards if he do this. I think he is able to draw like 3 or 4 cards, I believe. So he has the option of either having him draw this many cards or end his turn right there and not do anything. Because with his current monsters on the field, he cannot do anything. He cannot touch any of his monsters. And then you have Dark and Strong in a fight again, where Dark believes that he should just stop and not do anything right now, while Strong thinks that he should just go into it and try to beat the monsters and just take the risk of what cards he draws. Though Strong doesn't remember what Thunder Dragons do, and I don't really know what Thunder Dragons do either. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't pay attention to Thunder Dragons. I've never really been interested in them, to be completely honest with you guys. But from what it sounds like from Dark, it's probably not a good idea to do that. But they end up getting in the picker. Shoma has to think of what he's going to do. Tendo ends up taunting him. And then he decides to equip Swords Rapidness in his hand to his Evaqua. And then he banishes the equipped spell card, or the equipped super ally sword on the field, so that he can summon his God Phoenix Gearfree. And he even has a summon chant, which I'm going to read the summoning chant. I actually think it's not that bad of a summoning chant. O warrior who flows with the power of fire, and whose body carries the flames of the phoenix, now blazing inferno, and send the godhood. God Phoenix Gearfried, special summon. And then, Tendo gets to draw his card. He gives him the 75 out of 100, which I'm going to be honest, I don't do summoning chants myself. But honestly, give that a solid 9 out of 10. I actually thought that was a really cool summoning chant. And then Shoma's only reason to do this, he really wanted to summon this monster onto the field. That's the reason why he wanted to build this deck. This is his ace monster for this duel, and he really wanted to play this card during this duel. And he decided to take the draw card risk just to summon his Gearfried onto the field, which I give respect to. Now, is that going to cost him? I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking right now, this kid, if Shoma loses to this Weevil Flip Turner looking kid, I don't know what to think. And that's another thing too, now thinking about it. He's not the top duelist. This Tendo character isn't. Technically, out of the four elementary school duel kings, or the duelet, or whatever it is, Dark was considered the strongest one, with Strong being the weakest, but I don't... Well, the fact that you couldn't remember Thunder Dragons, maybe, but... Again, a lot of people don't memorize the decks, but he says earlier, like way beginning in the chapter, he's like, once he hasn't used a card for a while, you don't remember the effects, which... I feel the same pain too. Like, I can read a card from... I can remember the card's name, but I'm telling you this right now, I'm not going to memorize that effect, especially when you got effects these days, like from like Astrograph Sorcerer and Enlightenment Paladin, which have like 200 words in their card decks, or card text, and you think I'm going to remember that? You'd be wrong. But... guys, that is going to be it. There is not really much to talk about. That is all we see. That is the end of this chapter. It's going to be another two-part duel, which is going to be expected with these duels. I mean, it makes sense. We're in Master Rule 4 in this manga right now, which that's another thing to think about. They have to shift the Master Rule 5 later on in the chapters, so... I feel, well, it's not going to get that much complicated. The only thing that hurts is that you can, well, no, that's going to make it more intense because you can summon Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz wherever the heck you want. We're in Master Rule 4, you can do that. But, guys, that is going to be it for this chapter review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know all your guys' thoughts on this chapter down below. Did you guys, when you first read it for the first time, because obviously I'm behind in it. I'm way behind in it already. I think I'm like 8 chapters away from catching up to where they're currently at. Right now they've stopped at chapter 13. They haven't done a chapter since, probably due to the pandemic. So hopefully I can catch up pretty soon and get back in track with whatever is going on in the current OCG Structures chapters right now. I can be able to catch up, but for the time being, we're just going to go at our own pace and try to get up there. But let me know all you guys' thoughts on this down below. Let me know what you guys' reactions were when you saw Protagonist. Were you questioning who this character was, or did you already know this character was like from Psycho Card Battle? And if you didn't know that and you now know what it is, what are you guys' thoughts on it? Do you like that little ode to the Psycho Card Battle game? Or is it not really that big of a deal? I really do like it, even though I know nothing. And again, if you know what in the world happened, unless it's spoiling only the chapters ahead, then don't tell me. The only exception is if it's in the game and in the chapters, then it's completely fine. But what happened to this character? That is the biggest thing I want to know from this chapter, because they've made this very concerning the way they act, and I really want to know what in the world is going on. But guys, that is going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time guys, take care and have yourselves a great rest of your day.